Look, folks, you should never cross a picket line, whether it's in person or whether it's digital. Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. You know, in the past few months and years, we've been seeing a growing awareness of the way in which primarily digital companies, be they Amazon or be they ride-sharing apps or be they Airbnb or anything else, have poor labor practices and have poor practices that meld well with corporate responsibility, with environmental responsibility, with how they affect the job market and rental markets, and we can go on and on and on. And as a result of that, we've seen increased movement of workers for those companies stand up against them and do things like go on strike and do things like call for boycotts and do things like call for greater awareness from consumers and from politicians and from media. And in some cases, they've set up picket lines, be they on formal strikes or for information. And historically, one of the things that you should never do is cross a picket line. But picket lines in the past have been almost purely physical. Literally, a group of workers would set up outside the workplace with pickets, with placards and with signs and, you know, maybe some fires if it was winter, and they'd have food and coffee and they'd be marching and singing. And they'd be doing that to let people know that that workplace was on strike and you should never cross the picket line. You shouldn't cross the picket line to go work as a scab. You shouldn't cross the picket line to go deliver goods or to transport goods out. You shouldn't cross the picket line to be a consumer at that business. You shouldn't cross a picket line. But in our own time, picket lines are at least partially becoming digital because of companies like Amazon. And so yesterday, there was Amazon Prime Day, and a lot of people were calling for boycotts of Amazon given their poor labor practices. And some folks really had a hard time wrapping their heads around that. How can you cross a picket line that isn't physical? Well, the reality is that you do it through doing what you would normally do if you crossed a physical picket line. If you shop at the company, if you do business with the company, if you promote that company, if you share news about that company on Twitter or Facebook or what have you, if you do any of those things, you're crossing a digital picket line. So in a sense, we have to become better at promoting the idea of picket lines in the 21st century. When people at Amazon are calling a strike, we need to support them. On those days, when there's a strike at Amazon, it's not just enough not to cross the picket line at Amazon facilities, at Amazon headquarters or Amazon depots or what have you. You have to stop going to their website. You have to stop shopping there, even perusing there. You have to have a total blackout. And I know that's a lot harder with something as ubiquitous as Amazon. But you really do need to realize that the picket line is not merely physical, but it is digital. Another example is with things like Uber or Lyft or other ride-sharing services. And the reality there is that you'll see some picket lines at airports or where a lot of Uber drivers or Lyft drivers tend to congregate. You might see actual picket lines there. And a lot of people will think, well, I won't cross that line because, you know, that's a picket line. But yet, if you use your Uber app at home to go from point A to point B, you've just crossed a picket line. And you've just undermined the strike. So it's very important that if we're going to be conscious as labor activists and as ethical and progressive consumers in the 21st century, that we take the venerable concepts of the labor boycott, of the strike boycott, and we apply it to our modern times. And realize that workers need our support both in the physical and digital space. And the only way we can do that is by boycotting sources to the fullest of our extent. So next time workers call for a strike at Amazon, boycott the website. Do not visit the site. Certainly don't purchase anything from it. Do not share any articles that talk about Prime Day deals. When Uber workers are fighting for justice, when they're on strike, or when Lyft drivers are on strike, don't only refrain from crossing a picket line at the airport, but be sure to not use the app. Don't share any news about Uber. Don't share any news about Lyft. Because doing so is in a sense crossing a digital picket line. But there's also some great ideas here. Much in the way that you could support workers in the past on physical picket lines by visiting the line to stand in solidarity with them and bring them food and bring them, you know, coffee and things like that and donate to the strike fund, you can do things like this today. You can support these workers by sharing their news, by sharing the posts of strikers, by sharing media about them and by them. You can support them by writing up posts and making videos like this one about how digital picket lines are important. you can make a difference in the digital space more than you could before, because increasingly the digital space is where work happens and is where industrial conflict happens. So this is both a good thing and a bad thing. In our digital era, a picket line is much easier to cross because they're much harder to see. But with greater organization of unions and of working people that support those unions, we can make digital picket lines quite effective, and we can reach people with a speed and mass that physical lines never could have. So guys, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate if you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps to let people know that digital picket lines are real picket lines, and that if we want to support working people, we can't cross them. Even if there's Prime Day deals, and even if you like Uber more than you like your traditional taxis, a digital picket line is every bit as real as the picket lines at factories that you see in your labor history textbooks. And if you can, I would appreciate your support on Patreon. Your support there helps me to bring pro-worker and pro-labor issues to YouTube on both the American and Canadian fronts, which is very rare on this platform. So guys, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.